Imagine for a second that you are trying to hold together a massive, collapsing global superpower.
Yeah, which is no small task to begin with.
Right. I mean, the foundations are cracking, there are fires everywhere, and you are fighting like 19 simultaneous battles.
Across an entire continent, actually.
Exactly. Across an entire continent. And against all odds, through just sheer force of will and military might, you actually managed to win.
Right.
But winning the war is, it's really only half the problem. Now, you have to convince the entire world and history itself, honestly, that this wasn't just some desperate, chaotic scramble for power.
Yeah, you have to spin it.
Right. You have to convince everyone that this absolute bloodbath was actually a divine cosmic plan, and that you were the ordained protagonist of the universe all along.
It's just a monumental task. I mean, when we look at ancient history, for those of you listening, there's this ingrained assumption that we're simply reading dry, objective facts.
Yeah, like it's just lists of kings and battles.
Exactly. Dutifully carved in stone by scribes who were, just acting as ancient stenographers.
Right. We tend to think, well, it's carved in rock, so it must be the official historical record. But our mission for this deep dive is to totally shatter that assumption.
We really are.
We're exploring the ultimate blueprint for pulling off a global spin campaign. And our sources today, they center entirely on the Behistun Inscription,
which was commissioned by Darius the Great of the Achaemenid Empire. This is around 522 BCE.
Right. And what we have in our stack of research today is a complete deconstruction of what is rightfully called the masterpiece of ancient propaganda.
It really is a masterpiece. I mean, we're going to look at the architectural context of the monument, the highly engineered genealogical trees.
The tactical maps of his military campaigns, too.
Yeah, and the linguistic analysis of the text itself. The goal here is to uncover the exact mechanisms Darius used to manufacture his own legitimacy.
And how he weaponized theology.
Right, exactly. And utilize this massive decentralized bureaucracy to save his empire from absolute annihilation.
But, I want to push back on the premise for just a second.
Okay, sure.
If this is just a giant propaganda billboard, why should we care?
Yeah.
I mean, modern politicians spin things literally all the time.
They do, yeah.
So what makes Darius's version so spectacular that we are still talking about it 2.5 millennia later?
Well, it's really about the sheer scale and the permanence of the operation. Modern political spin it's ephemeral, right? It disappears into the next news cycle.
True. You forget about it by Tuesday.
Exactly. But Darius, he engineered a campaign designed to outlast empires, to outlast language and memory itself.
Wow.
So to truly grasp how he achieved this, we can't merely examine what words he used. In the realm of ultimate information control, the medium is arguably more critical than the message.
Okay, so we have to start with the physical architecture of the information.
We do.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because the location he chose is honestly the wildest part of this whole story for me.
It really is.
If you want everyone to read your PR campaign, you put it in a town square, right?
Right, normally.
You put it in a bustling marketplace in Babylon or like a grand hall in Persepolis. But Darius didn't do that at all.
Far from it. He selected Mount Behistun, which is located in the Zagros Mountains in the Media region, so modern-day Western Iran.
Okay.
But he didn't just, put it at the base of the mountain where people could walk by. He ordered the monument carved 100 meters up a sheer vertical limestone cliff face.
Wait, 100 meters?
Yeah.
That's roughly the height of a 30-story skyscraper.
It's massive.
I am genuinely stuck on the logistics of this. How do you even accomplish that in 500 BCE? Like, did they build massive scaffolding from the ground up?
Well, the engineering required was staggering.
Yeah.
We don't have the original construction schematics, but archaeologists and historians believe they likely carved a precarious path.
Oh, path.
Yeah, or like a series of ledges up the side of the cliff just to reach the designated area.
That sounds terrifying.
Oh, it was. Artisans would have been suspended by ropes or standing on these terrifyingly narrow wooden scaffolding pegged into the rock. And they were just chiseling away at the limestone face for months, if not years.
Just dangling up there.
Yeah. And here's the crucial detail. Once the carving and the inscriptions were entirely finished, Darius ordered the workers to completely destroy the path and the ledges leading up to it.
Wait, hold on. He had them chisel away the very steps they used to get up there.
He severed the only physical connection to the ground.
You've got to be kidding me.
Nope. The monument was just left suspended on a smooth, vertical drop.
So it is quite literally inaccessible. You can't just hike up to it for a weekend field trip.
Not at all.
If I'm just an ancient Persian peasant walking on the royal road below, what do I actually see when I look up?
You see this massive, imposing visual relief. It depicts Darius the king standing victorious, armed with a bow, and he's pressing his foot firmly onto the chest of a fallen figure.
A very dominant pose.
Extremely. And hovering above him is the god Ahura Mazda, bestowing a ring of divine approval.
So God is literally endorsing him right there on the rock.
Exactly. And before Darius, bound together by their necks in a single line, are 9 captive rebel leaders.
Wow. Bound by their necks.
Yeah. And the text explicitly labels them as the Lie Kings.
The Lie Kings. It's an incredibly dominant visual. It's the ancient equivalent of a billboard projecting absolute power.
It really is.
But you mentioned there's text too, not just the picture.
Oh, there's an enormous amount of text. Below and around this massive relief, the narrative of his victories is carved identically in 3 different cuneiform scripts.
It's 3 different ones.
Yeah. Old Persian, Elamite, and Babylonian.
Which is why this specific cliff face became so legendary for modern historians, right?
That's the one.
Because for you listening, this is basically the Rosetta Stone of the ancient Near East. Because it had the same text in 3 languages, it gave modern linguists the ultimate key to finally deciphering cuneiform back in the 19th century.
Exactly. It unlocked the whole language.
But think about this from Darius's perspective for a second. It's like launching an unhackable billion-dollar satellite into deep orbit just to broadcast your resume in 3 languages.
That's a great way to put it.
But you're placing it in an orbit where casual passersby on the ground can barely even see it, let alone read the fine print.
Right. They can't read it at all.
So why? Why put an unbelievable amount of effort, money, and danger into carving a massive text document that the average person can't even read?
Well, the translator's notes on this inscription offer a really profound insight into his psychology here.
What do they say?
They observe that Darius displays an ambition to transmit the glories of his reign to future generations.
Okay, so he's thinking long-term.
Very long term. He wasn't publishing a daily newsletter to sway local, immediate public opinion. I mean, if you want to sway the peasants, you send criers down to the markets.
Right, you don't carve a cliff.
Exactly. This monument had a completely different audience. It was an enduring, immutable broadcast meant for the gods and meant for history itself.
So the inaccessibility is actually the security feature.
Fundamentally, yes. You have to remember, in the ancient world, kings routinely chiseled the names of their predecessors off of statues and buildings.
Just to erase them from history.
Exactly. Darius knew this happened all the time. So by placing his narrative 100 meters up a sheer drop and destroying the access path, he ensured that no future king, no rival dynasty, and no disgruntled rebel could ever take a chisel to it and alter his story.
That is brilliant. It was a tamper-proof document locked in stone forever.
Precisely.
Okay, so he successfully builds the ultimate, undeletable cloud backup of his achievements.
Right?
But to command the resources to carve a billboard that big, you first have to justify why you are the one holding the chisel.
Which is the big question.
Yeah, and this brings up a massive red flag in our sources. Because from what I'm reading, his claim to the throne wasn't exactly a straight line.
That is putting it mildly. To understand the political gymnastics Darius had to perform, we really have to look closely at the Achaemenid family tree that he lays out in the inscription.
Okay, set the scene for us.
So the context here is the sudden death of King Cambyses II. When he dies, the empire is thrown into a highly fragile state.
A power vacuum.
Exactly. And Darius steps up to fill the void, but he is not the direct, obvious next in line.
So what does he do?
He meticulously curates his genealogy to prove he was always destined to rule.
Okay, help me map this out, because reading ancient family trees can feel like reading stereo instructions.
Yeah, let's visualize it. So Darius traces his ancestry back to a founding figure named Achaemenides.
Okay, Achaemenides.
And then down to a patriarch named Thyspes. Now, from Thyspes, the family tree splits into 2 distinct branches.
Okay, I have Thyspes at the top splitting into 2 lines.
Yep.
I'm with you.
So the first branch goes from Thyspes to Cambyses I, then to Cyrus the Great, and finally to Cambyses II.
So that first branch, that is the undeniable royal line.
Yes.
Those are the guys who build the empire and were actively sitting on the throne.
Correct.
Where does Darius come in?
Darius comes from the second branch.
Oh.
So from Thyspes, the second line goes to Ariaramnes, then to Arsimes, then to Hystaspes, and finally down to Darius himself.
Wait, I'm looking at this second branch. Were Ariaramnes or Arsimes or his father Hystaspes ever actually the kings of the empire?
No, They were regional leaders, perhaps satraps, but they were not the great kings of the empire.
Right.
Cyrus and Cambyses held that absolute power.
This sounds exactly like creative corporate accounting during a hostile takeover.
He really does.
It's like rewriting the company org chart to prove to the board of directors that you are actually always the majority shareholder, just through, like, a really complicated subsidiary.
That's a perfect analogy.
Isn't this just a massive, incredibly convenient cousin loophole?
It is the geopolitical equivalent of a corporate restructuring, and a brilliant one at that. Darius is engaging in what historians call a dual descent mandate.
A dual descent mandate.
Right. He retroactively engineers his legitimacy by firmly linking his father, Hystaspes, laterally back to the revered royal house of Cyrus the Great.
By using that shared ancestor, Hystaspes.
Exactly. He ties them back together at the top.
He even brags about it in the text, right? There's this incredibly famous quote where Darius proclaims, let me find it. He says, 8 of my family were kings before me. I am the 9th. In 2 lines, we are kings.
Yeah, that phrase, in 2 lines we are kings, is doing an immense amount of political heavy lifting.
Oh, I bet.
By emphasizing that his family and Cyrus's family share a common ancient root, he makes his sudden ascension look like a preordained natural continuation of the royal bloodline.
Instead of what it actually was.
Right. He masks what could easily be seen as an opportunistic power grab by a rogue general, framing it instead as the glorious restoration of a dual lineage destiny.
So he needs people to buy into this story.
He requires the populace to believe that his rule is not a violent break in tradition, but the ultimate fated fulfillment of it.
That makes a lot of sense. If you can convince people you are the prophecy fulfilled, they are way less likely to question your right to the crown. But all this retroactive genealogical engineering, it raises a much bigger question. Why was the throne empty for him to take in the first place?
Right. Where did the king go?
Yeah. If Cambyses II was ruling, where did he go?
This takes us into the core crisis of the era, the catalyst that sparked the entire chaotic civil war. It involves a massive power vacuum, family assassination, and what has to be one of the most audacious cases of identity theft in recorded history.
I read this part of the notes 3 times because it sounds like a plot from a thriller.
It really does.
Well, walk me through the timeline. How does the throne actually become vacant?
So, according to the narrative Darius carves into the mountain, the previous king, Cambyses II, becomes incredibly paranoid.
Okay.
And he secretly assassinates his own brother, a man named Smerdis.
Wow. Just murders his own brother.
Yes. And Cambyses hides the murder from the public. Nobody knows. And then he departs the capital for a massive military campaign in Egypt.
Okay, so the king is thousands of miles away in Egypt, and nobody knows the heir apparent, his brother, has been secretly murdered. That is a recipe for a catastrophic power vacuum.
And nature abhors a vacuum. The public narrative, the lie that suddenly sweeps the empire, is that Smerdis, the rightful son of Cyrus, has miraculously returned.
The dead brother.
Right. He steps out of the shadows, claims that his tyrannical brother Cambyses has abandoned the empire, and declares himself the rightful king.
Oh my God.
And the provinces, who are exhausted by Cambyses' reign anyway, they just rejoice.
Yeah.
The sources note that this figure successfully takes control of the entire empire without a single battle being fought.
Wait, really? Just like that?
The populace simply accepts him as their long-lost prince.
It's an incredible story. But okay, that's the public narrative. What is Darius's truth? What is the reality he actually carves into the stone?
Darius claims that the man sitting on the throne in the palace was not Smerdis at all. Remember, the real Smerdis was secretly murdered.
Right. So who was it?
Darius asserts that this man was a mortal impostor, a man named Kametis, or Gaumata. And he was a magus, which is a member of a specific priestly class from a region called Pisiuvada.
This is staggering to me. So this magus, Gaumata, somehow knew the real Smerdis was dead.
Presumably, yes.
Probably because he had inside information from the court, right?
Yeah.
And he just decided to put on the crown.
Pretty much.
Yeah, it's like an imposter hijacking the entire federal government by simply walking into the presidential palace, sitting at the desk, and giving orders while the actual president is overseas.
And everyone else just assumes he's supposed to be there.
Yeah. But I struggle with the logistics of this. How does one imposter keep millions of people across a vast multilingual empire quiet about a coup? Someone had to have noticed he wasn't the real prince.
Well, you have to consider the mechanics of ancient society. He weaponized information asymmetry.
What do you mean?
In an era without mass media, photographs, or fast travel, the vast majority of the empire's subjects, even high-ranking provincial leaders, had never actually seen the real Smerdis's face.
Oh, that's true. No TV, no internet.
Right. If the central bureaucracy says the king is Smerdis and he has the royal seal, the provinces just fall in line.
They just take their word for it.
Exactly. Furthermore, the inscription explicitly states that the Magus utilized intense terror.
Really?
Yeah, he reportedly executed anyone who might have known the real Smerdis or who dared to question his identity. He basically terrified the populace into total silence.
So it's a combination of extreme geographical isolation and just sheer brutality.
Exactly.
But Darius claims the Magus went even further than just stealing the throne, right?
Yes, and this is a crucial piece of the propaganda puzzle.
Yeah.
Darius claims the Magus systemically destroyed religious sanctuaries.
Yeah, wait.
He framed the impostor not merely as a political rival who stole a crown, but as a religious fanatic attempting to dismantle the spiritual infrastructure of the empire.
Oh, wow. Which perfectly sets the stage for Darius to make his grand entrance. I mean, if the guy on the throne is just a bad king, overthrowing him is treason.
Right.
But if the guy on the throne is a religious terrorist impersonating a dead prince,
Yeah.
well, then overthrowing him is a holy crusade.
Precisely the framing Darius needed. So, knowing the secret that the king is a fake, Darius organizes a strike.
Okay, what does he do?
He gathers a small, tight-knit band of loyal allies. They travel to the fortress of Sikaiovari in the Nisaea region of Media.
Which is where the impostor is residing.
Exactly, and they assassinate the Magus.
A targeted Black Ops assassination to decapitate the false government.
Yep.
And the moment the Magus is dead, Darius initiates step 2, the Great Restoration.
Right, he has to fix everything.
Yeah, he immediately goes about undoing the damage of the lie. He claims to rebuild the sanctuaries, the places of worship that were destroyed by the Magian sect. He also makes an immediate economic pivot. He returns the seized herds, dwellings, and pastures to the nomadic clans and citizens. It's like he wants to signal to the entire continent that the nightmare is over and the good times are back.
And before we move to the fallout of that assassination, we should probably pause on a fascinating detail buried in the translator's notes regarding those restored sanctuaries.
Oh, yeah. The text uses a specific Old Persian word, right?
Yes, the word is ayadana.
Ayadana.
And this single word sparked a major philological debate among historians.
Yeah, I saw that phrase, philological debate, in the notes. For you listening who might not spend your weekends digging through linguistic journals, what exactly does philology entail, and why is this one word causing such a fight?
So philology is essentially the study of language in historical and literary texts. It's a combination of literary criticism, history, and linguistics.
Okay.
Philologists don't just translate words, they track how words change over time to understand the culture that actually produced them.
Got it. So what's the debate here?
The debate stems from a contradiction. The famous Greek historian Herodotus wrote extensively about the ancient Persians.
Right.
And he explicitly claimed that they had no temples or altars whatsoever. He said they worshipped in the open air.
Wait, but Darius's own giant billboard says he is rebuilding destroyed sanctuaries.
Exactly. The presence of the word ayadana on the Behistun inscription strongly suggests there were, in fact, specific physical altars or sacred structures.
Structures that were targeted by the Magian religious sect.
Yes, and that Darius felt compelled to rebuild them. It perfectly illustrates how a primary archaeological text carved in stone can directly challenge and even rewrite established historical narratives written by outsiders like Herodotus.
That's fascinating. The physical evidence basically proves the historian wrong.
It does.
But, while Darius is busy playing architect and rebuilding these altars, assuming he's the great hero who saved the day, he accidentally triggers an apocalypse.
He really does. And this is the core insight into the fragility of imperial power. By striking at the center, Darius unleashes total chaos.
Yeah, if we look at the map of the empire the moment the Magus dies, it is terrifying. Darius probably thought the provinces would cheer for him, right?
You would think so.
Instead, the instant he kills the impostor, the central authority of the empire just vanishes. Instantly. 9 different regions declare independence.
9 of them.
We are talking about massive, wealthy provinces. Assyria, Armenia, Margiana, Parthia, Susiana, Persis, Media, Sattagide, and the Saki. The entire known world literally bursts into flames simultaneously.
It's an absolute disaster.
Why didn't they just accept Darius?
Well, because he broke the illusion of central stability. Think about it from the perspective of a provincial governor in Assyria or Armenia.
Okay.
They were told Smerdis was king. Then suddenly, word arrives that Smerdis was actually a fake, and a new guy named Darius, who has to explain this convoluted family tree just to justify his presence, just murdered him and took the palace.
So to the provinces, it just looks like a violent coup by a random general.
Exactly. Darius removed the only figure holding the massive bureaucracy together, even if that figure was an imposter.
Wow.
The central pressure that kept these diverse nations unified was just lifted overnight.
So the provinces looked at the capital, saw chaos, and decided they were far better off ruling themselves.
Exactly. Darius inadvertently trapped himself in a classic regime change disaster. Removing a dictator without a universally accepted transition of power almost always results in a fractured state.
So suddenly, Darius has to transition from being a savior to a warlord. He has 19 massive existential fires to put out.
Yeah, 19 battles.
And if we want to understand how empires fracture, we need to look really closely at these specific rebellions, because the anatomy of these revolts, how the rebels justify their uprisings, reveals a really profound psychological tactic.
The Behistun sources actually provide a very structured rebel scorecard.
Oh, yeah.
Darius meticulously lists the specific usurpers, the false claims they made to gain power, and the provinces they targeted.
Can you give an example?
Sure. For example, a man named Atraenes simply claimed, "I am king of Susiana," and targeted the Susiana province.
Okay, that's pretty straightforward. But then it gets much more specific, right?
Yeah.
A rebel named Nabonidus doesn't just claim to be a king. He announces, "I am Nabuchodonosor, son of Nabonidus," and he targets Babylon.
Right.
Another rebel, Phraortes, claims, "I am Kaetan of Cyaxares line," targeting Media. Even in the Persian heartland, a man named Behistun claims, "I am Smerdis, son of Cyrus," and goes after Persis.
Yeah, it keeps happening.
Later, another guy named Arachis also claimed to be Nabuchodonosor to stir up Babylon a second time. I'm noticing a massive pattern here.
What stands out to you?
Well, almost none of these guys are claiming to be the ruler of the whole world.
Ah.
They aren't saying, "I am the new great king of the Achaemenid Empire." They are making highly localized claims. They are saying, "I am the ancient king of Babylon," or "I am the ancient king of Media." It's weaponized nostalgia.
That is a perfect way to conceptualize it. Weaponized nostalgia.
Yeah, it's like regional political campaigns running on a slogan of "Make Babylon Great Again."
Right.
They aren't trying to take over the world. They are trying to reboot these nostalgic, localized franchises. They're tapping into the historical memory of the people in those specific provinces, reminding them of the glory days before the massive Persian Empire swallowed them up.
And the use of local nostalgia is an incredibly potent tool when an empire falters. What this reveals to modern historians is just how shallow imperial integration actually was. The Achaemenid Empire wasn't a harmonious melting pot where everyone happily assimilated and adopted a Persian identity.
Right, they were forced into it.
Exactly. So the moment the central military pressure from the capital evaporated, these provinces immediately reverted to their historical, ethnic, and cultural identities. They rallied around the ghosts of their past kings.
Wow.
So for Darius, this means he isn't just fighting rogue generals who want his job. He is fighting the resurrected national identities of half his continent.
Which sounds like an unwinnable nightmare. How does one man fight 19 battles across an entire continent against deeply motivated nationalist uprisings at the exact same time?
The reality is, he doesn't.
He doesn't.
No. And this brings us to one of the most crucial elements of imperial survival: the bureaucracy of war.
Okay, let's get into it.
To save an empire of this unimaginable scale, you cannot rely on the cinematic trope of a single mythical hero riding into battle.
Right, Darius isn't just swinging a sword on 19 different fronts.
Exactly. You must rely on a highly organized, impeccably loyal military administration.
Yeah, the sources outline a group called the King's Men. These are the generals who actually executed this massive counteroffensive while Darius commanded the core loyalist Persian and Median forces.
And the inscription specifically names these men and their theaters of war.
Who were they?
Well, we have Hydarnes, for example, a Persian general. He's dispatched to Media to crush the primary revolt there.
Okay.
Then there's Darius, an Armenian loyalist. He's sent back to his home region of Armenia, where he fights 3 successive grueling battles.
Wow, sending a local to fight the locals.
Exactly. Omises, another Persian, is also sent to reinforce that crucial Armenian front.
Got it. Who else?
Artavardius, a Persian, is deployed to crush a massive second uprising right in the heartland of Persis. And Intafras, a Median general, is sent to retake Babylon from the second usurper who claimed to be Nabucodonosor.
It's just a masterclass in delegated command. These generals are operating independently across vast distances, executing simultaneous decentralized campaigns.
Yeah.
I mean, the logistics of feeding those armies, moving them across mountains and deserts, and communicating orders via horseback messengers, it requires an administrative machine of terrifying efficiency.
It does. And to truly appreciate the sophistication of this military machine, the sources give us a tactical deep dive into one specific pivotal engagement.
Oh, this is the Tigris crossing, right?
Yes, the Tigris crossing. This occurred during the campaign against the first Babylonian usurper, Nabonidus.
And this is where things get really fun for the historians.
Yeah.
Because understanding this battle requires navigating what the notes call a philological battlefield.
A great term.
Yeah, the modern historians actually fought over how to translate the military tactics used here.
Oh, the dispute is legendary in archaeological circles. So the Old Persian text on the cliff face that describes the specific mounts used by Darius's forces to cross the Tigris River, it was heavily damaged by time and weather.
It's hard to read.
Right. So in the mid-19th century, Sir Henry Rawlinson, who was one of the brilliant early pioneers of deciphering cuneiform, he attempted to translate the damaged section.
Okay, what did he think it said?
Based on the surviving wedges of text, he concluded that Darius utilized elephants to cross the river.
Elephants, which is just an amazing cinematic visual. Imagine generations of serious historians marveling at this tactical, amphibious, ancient elephant corps in Mesopotamia.
It's quite an image.
They must have been writing rigorous academic papers on the logistics of transporting elephants from India, feeding them in the desert, and getting them to swim across a major river under hostile fire.
Oh, they absolutely were. For decades, it was accepted as this dazzling display of Persian military exoticism.
That's hilarious.
But, the discipline of philology requires constant verification. Later, a scholar named Julius Oppert, along with subsequent translators, re-examined the inscription.
And what did they find?
Well, by comparing the heavily damaged Old Persian text with the better preserved Elamite and Babylonian versions of the exact same sentence, because remember, it's written in 3 languages.
Right, the Rosetta Stone aspect.
Exactly. They definitively corrected the translation.
And what was the reality?
The troops were not on elephants at all. The translation revealed that Darius placed his troops on camels and horses.
A bit more practical.
Yes, maneuvering them alongside foot soldiers on inflated skins and makeshift rafts to cross the river and attack Nabonidus' forces waiting on the opposite bank.
A couple of damaged scratches in a rock, and suddenly the academic world hallucinated an entire elephant army.
Pretty much.
It really highlights the fragility of our historical knowledge, but honestly, even without the elephants, put yourself in the boots of those soldiers.
It's still incredible.
You are trying to get thousands of horses and stubborn camels onto rafts, or forcing them to swim across the Tigris River, which is deep, fast-flowing, and incredibly dangerous, all while a rebel army on the opposite bank is raining arrows down on you.
Yeah, it's a nightmare scenario.
The fact that they successfully executed an amphibious assault under those conditions demonstrates just how adaptable and disciplined Darius's military was.
It was a triumph of logistical genius and sheer grit. But winning the battles on the field is only the first step of imperial pacification.
Right.
The generals won the war, but Darius had to win the peace. He had to ensure that these rebellions, these 19 simultaneous nationalist uprisings, never happened again.
So how does he do that?
To achieve that permanence, he utilized a deeply calculated strategy. We must examine the architecture of retribution.
Okay, imagine you are an ancient Persian citizen. The wars are finally over, and you are walking past the grand gates of Darius's palace in the capital. What you see there is going to permanently alter how you view the king. And to our modern sensibilities, what Darius does next sounds like grotesque, mindless cruelty.
The sources detail the fate of several prominent rebel leaders, most notably Phraortes of Media and Sitratakmas of Sagarkia. Following their defeat and capture, Darius ordered their public mutilation.
What exactly did he do?
Specifically, he ordered that their noses and ears be completely severed.
Brutal.
But the punishment did not end with mutilation. The bleeding, disfigured kings were then chained to the massive front doors of Darius's palace.
So they're chained to the very entrance of the center of power. Anyone coming to do business, anyone walking through the market is forced to witness their absolute degradation.
Daily, they were kept there as living warning signs. Finally, the retribution was concluded with execution. Phraortes was taken to Ecbatana and crucified, and Sitritakmus was crucified at Arbela.
Mutilation, chaining them to the front door like animals, and then public crucifixion. It is horrifying.
It is very hard to stomach.
But if we are looking at this analytically, not just as a true crime gore fest, there has to be a structural political reason for this specific sequence of violence. He wasn't just doing this because he was a sadist, right?
Right. To understand the logic, we have to view this through the lens of performative justice within the ancient Near East.
Performative justice. Explain that.
In this era, kingship was inextricably linked to divine favor. The king was considered the literal avatar of the god's will on earth, and that divine mandate was visually represented by physical perfection.
Okay, so a king must be physically whole to prove he is blessed.
Exactly. By permanently stripping these rebel leaders of their physical perfection, by severing their noses and ears, Darius is doing much more than torturing a man.
What's the deeper meaning?
Think of it like physically breaking a divine seal. He is visually annihilating their theological legitimacy to rule in the eyes of the public.
I see. If a man claims to be the divinely ordained king of Media, but the public sees him chained to a gate missing his nose and ears, the visual message is impossible to ignore. The gods have clearly abandoned this man. His body is ruined, therefore his divine mandate is void.
The physical destruction proves the theological point. It permanently shatters the aura of leadership that these usurpers relied upon.
Wow.
A martyr can still inspire a rebellion. A humiliated, mutilated failure chained to a door cannot. Darius is systematically disarming the ideology of rebellion.
That makes a terrifying kind of sense. And it connects perfectly to how Darius framed this entire civil war.
Yeah.
He didn't just see it as a political dispute over borders or taxes or a disagreement over who gets to sit in the big chair.
No, not at all.
He elevated the conflict. He turned a messy civil war into a battle for the universe itself. This leads us to the cosmic framework of his propaganda: truth, the lie, and the syntax of victory.
Right. Darius constructs a strict dualistic theological framework for his empire, heavily influenced by early Zoroastrian concepts.
Okay, what are the two sides?
On one side, you have the concept of Asha, which translates to divine truth. This represents the legitimate, natural, cosmic order mandated by the supreme god Ahura Mazda.
So Darius is on the side of truth.
Exactly. Darius frames his own reign not as a political victory, but as the physical manifestation of Ajata. He is the ordained protector of the universe's moral architecture.
And on the exact opposite side of that cosmic spectrum,
You have Adroga, which translates to the lie.
the lie. This is such a brilliant trap. In Darius's narrative, rebellion is never framed as a legitimate political grievance.
Never.
If a province rebels because they are starving, or because taxes are too high, or simply because they want their ancient independence back, they are not viewed as political dissidents. Anyone who opposes Darius is officially labeled a follower of the lie.
The implications of that label are absolute. By rebelling, they are fundamentally disrupting cosmic order and weaponizing deceit. Political dissent is literally recategorized as a theological offense against the fabric of reality.
It's the ultimate trump card. You can't sit down at a negotiating table with someone if their very existence is considered a cosmic lie.
Yeah.
You can only eradicate them. But what I find even more fascinating than the theology is how Darius actually writes about his victories on the mountain. The sources highlight what they call the syntax of victory.
Oh, this is fascinating.
He literally engineers his propaganda at the sentence level. There is a rigid, almost robotic formula to how he describes every single battle his generals won.
Yeah, the structure is incredibly precise and repeated endlessly. It follows 4 distinct, calculated steps in the text.
Walk us through them.
First, the divine mandate. Every single victory report begins with the phrase, Ahura Mazda brought me help by the grace of Ahura Mazda.
Okay, step 1, God is on my side.
Exactly. Second, the commander is introduced, my army.
Step 2,
Third, the absolute action. Utterly defeated that rebel army.
utterly defeated.
And fourth, the precision timestamp on the 22nd day of the month of Vyakna.
It is such a bizarre combination. It's like smashing together a sacred religious text with a corporate accounting ledger.
That's a very good way to describe it.
By the grace of God Almighty, creator of heaven and earth, we close the Q3 fiscal accounts on Thursday the 14th. Like, why? Why go to the immense trouble of carving these exact bureaucratic dates into a rock face?
Because it is a masterstroke of psychological manipulation.
Mm-hmm.
By supplying exact, highly specific administrative accounting dates like the 22nd day of Darius, gives his highly subjective divine narrative the unassailable veneer of an objective administrative ledger.
Ah, it grounds the cosmic battle in mundane reality.
Precisely. The theology justifies the immense violence of the wars, but the timestamp makes the victory a verifiable historical fact.
That is so smart.
You can argue with the theology. A rival priest might debate the true will of Ahura Mazda, but it is very hard for a reader to argue with a timestamp. The specificity of the data makes the entire massive claim feel grounded and undeniably true.
So let's look at the board here. He has won the war. He stabilized his empire through a massive network of decentralized generals. He destroyed the divine legitimacy of his rivals through public performative mutilation. He framed his reign as the ultimate cosmic truth. And he carved this entire ledger 100 meters into the side of a mountain.
He's been busy.
But how does he ensure this specific version of reality survives long after he's dead? The final section of the monument addresses this, right? He actually speaks directly to the future.
He does. Darius concludes the core narrative on the cliff with a very clear blessing and a very dire curse aimed directly at any future generations who might interact with his monument.
What does the blessing say?
The blessing states, "If you preserve these tablets and images, Ahura Mazda will be propitious to you, and your lineage shall endure."
Okay, protect my story, and the gods will protect your family forever.
The mandate is clear.
And the curse is the exact opposite, I'm assuming.
Right. If you destroy them, may Ahura Mazda be your destroyer, and your lineage cease to exist. He is threatening the unborn descendants of anyone who dares to touch his PR campaign. But as you read through the breakdown of the text, there's a massive omission. A deliberate curation of the truth that shows just how incredibly savvy a propagandist he was.
The omission is perhaps the most sophisticated psychological tactic of the entire inscription. Darius explicitly states in the text that he did not carve all of his victories onto the mountain.
Right, he left things out.
He writes that he deliberately omitted them, lest future kings look at the sheer, overwhelming scale of his conquests and think them a miracle or a lie. Or, as Latin translations of the early scholarship put it, miraculo e mole.
Yes.
Wait, let me make sure I'm understanding this. He actually downplayed his own achievements.
He did.
He intentionally left off successful military campaigns so that people reading the cliff face would find his massive propaganda billboard more believable.
Yes, he absolutely did.
That is next-level reverse psychology. Usually dictators inflate their numbers. They say they shot a hole-in-one on every hole of golf they ever played. Darius deflated his numbers so his own myth wouldn't break under its own weight.
Darius intuitively understood a fundamental rule of information control that many modern leaders forget. Believability is far more important than totality.
That is a great point.
If a truth or a lie is too massive, too spectacular, it shatters the audience's credibility threshold.
People just stop buying it.
Right. By explicitly telling the reader, I accomplished even more than this, but I'm leaving it out so you don't think I'm exaggerating, he paradoxically makes the staggering 19 battles he did list seem entirely reasonable, modest, and undeniably factual.
He carefully curates the historical record to ensure it remains digestible.
Exactly. Even though we know from the historical sources that there were missing battles.
Yeah, the research notes that a later addition to the monument, Tabula V, covers subsequent campaigns, like the Susian revolt put down by his ally Gobrias, and the massive Scythian campaign against the Psyche.
Right.
The bloody work of empire building was never actually finished.
It never is. And to ensure the empire continued to function smoothly after he finished carving the stone, he uses the monument for one final piece of elite political maneuvering.
Okay, what is his final move?
In the concluding text, he immortalizes 6 specific men.
Who were they?
Intaphernes, Otanes, Gobrias, Hydarnes, Megabezus, and Ardumanes. These were the loyalists who helped him assassinate the original Magus usurper back at the very beginning of the crisis.
By embedding their names in stone, 100 meters up a cliff, he is paying them back with the ultimate favor.
Exactly.
He is guaranteeing that their families will be aristocratic royalty for generations, because their ancestors are literally carved into the foundational myth of the empire alongside the king himself. It ensures their families will never rebel, because their power is tied directly to his story.
If we pull back and synthesize everything we had discussed today, we can see that the Behistun inscription really offers a masterclass in regime survival. It provides a distinct three-part blueprint for imperial stability.
Okay, let's hear the blueprint.
Number 1, theological monopolization. By framing all rebellion as draga, the lie, Darius makes political dissent an offense against the universe itself. God is strictly on the side of the state.
God and the state are one. Got it.
Number 2, bureaucratic supremacy. The empire survived not through a single hero's might, but through coordinated, decentralized military action executed by fiercely loyal generals across vast distances.
No lone wolves.
Exactly. And number 3, immutable information control. By carving this highly curated narrative 100 meters up an inaccessible cliff face in 3 languages, Darius ensured his version of reality could never be edited, deleted, or challenged. It is the ultimate enduring broadcast.
And, looking at this blueprint, it is wild how relevant these exact tactics are today.
They really are.
We see this all the time.
Right.
We see modern politicians framing their opponents not just as people with different economic policies, but as fundamentally lying or actively destroying the moral fabric of reality.
Oh, constantly.
We see leaders using hyper-specific data points, those modern administrative timestamps, to make highly subjective ideological claims look like objective, undeniable facts.
It's the same exact strategy.
And we constantly see public figures carefully curating their feeds, deliberately omitting certain things, so their curated reality looks impressive, but critically remains believable.
The technology of communication has evolved dramatically from chisels and limestone to server farms and algorithms.
Right.
But the fundamental psychology of power and persuasion remains exactly the same. Darius simply executed his campaign with a permanence that we rarely see today.
Which brings us back to that cliff face in Iran. And I want to leave you, our listener, with a final question to mull over as you go about your day.
Okay, let's hear it.
If Darius the Great, the ruler of the largest empire the world had ever seen, a man who commanded massive armies, vast wealth, and unshakable power, still felt the overwhelming need to literally carve his truth into a sheer mountain cliff 100 meters in the air just to prevent it from being altered. What did that tell us about the fundamental fragility of truth itself?
It's a sobering thought.
In our modern era of digital impermanence, where every piece of data, every video, every historical record can be edited, deleted, or deepfaked in a fraction of a second, whose truth will actually manage to survive for the next 2,500 years.